Tac Dough is the classic game show that's back on TV. Host Brooke Burns here to chat all about the updated series on Game Show Network. Thank you so much for your time today.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
We got to see this in the 50s, in the 70s, the 80s, and the 1990s. So it's been about 35 years since the show has been on TV.
Yes, but I haven't been hosting it since the 50s, right?
No, absolutely, absolutely.
Otherwise, woo, I've been doing a lot of work.
but it's a classic game show that generations have loved, and now a new generation gets to enjoy it.
I know, it's amazing, right? For the longevity. I love that about game shows, that really the appeal is timeless, and that's one of the best things about it. So it's the childhood game of tic-tac-toe, but then you get to come on, play a little bit of trivia, and hopefully take home $10,000 if you can beat our dragon.
Let's talk a little bit about, each category, because obviously, this is all like knowledge. Like, you can't study for it. It's just like life experience that get those answers at the tip of your tongue.
Yes, I love that sometimes the most random personal life experience that a contestant will have had, like, comes back to play in a game like this that then wins them $10,000, whether it's I was driving down the street and I saw this billboard, or, my kid got into fencing and that's the only reason that I know that term, or you just never know where it comes from. And sometimes the most obvious answers to one person is like, just baffling to somebody else. So you really can't predict, like, oh, I think this person's going to win or that person's going to win. And that's what makes it so much fun.
Yeah, I mean, I know from watching the new updated series, it's like, oh, I remember this from school. Maybe this is a famous actor, something that I learned on a trip to the zoo, something a neighbor told me once randomly. Like, it's all this information that you try to just like piece together.
Yes. And then we had a couple of contestants on, like, of course, we're doing like a question about Taylor Swift that comes in, and I have an 8-year-old little girl, so I know every trivia. And I'm like, this is too easy. Da 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 da. The guy was like in his 20s. He was like, I have no idea. I don't listen to that music. I'm like, oh, you don't know about Taylor.
I was just about to ask you that. As far as like do you do that? Do you play along in your head as far as like, come on, it's so easy, or oh, I don't know this one?
That's the hardest part, is like separating the part of your brain that is also playing and going like, no, remember, you're in charge of this game and you're like listening to what they're talking about, and keeping that poker face, because I do start to get really excited, and I'm clearly a very animated person in general. So yeah, the poker face is probably the hardest part of the job for me.
Let's talk a little bit about the center spot there, because it's not just one question you have to get right. You have to get two questions right to be able to secure that that very coveted spot.
And it's so funny how it really does make the contestants nervous. Like, wait, that's two. What if it's so much harder? But sort of, it's like they are married together. So if you get the first one, then you have the opportunity. Potentially you're going to know the second part of the question. But it does make people avoid it, even though it's such a valuable space on the board. And I'm like, just go for it. You have nothing to lose. And they're like, yes, I do.
Obviously, you're thinking strategy because you want to block your opponent, but also there's categories that probably seem like, ooh, I know this one. What do you kind of, maybe someone who's going to be on the show in an upcoming episode, or someone who's watching at home, like, what is kind of the strategy? Do you want to go through the answers or possibly know, or do you want to just make sure that you're always blocking that other person?
Well, it's sort of both and. I mean, if you're starting out in the game, obviously go with what you think you know. But again, our category titles are like cute Hollywood titles, which don't necessarily represent the question underneath. I mean, it may be a pun or something like that, but I've definitely had people go, oh, I'm going to know this one. And then like, wait, huh? That's not where I was going with this. That's a math question hidden in a like fun, title. But the other thing is, I think they get so nervous about answering the trivia questions that sometimes they forget that it's 3 in a row. I'm like, don't let go of that childhood part of you. You literally could have won had you just gone for that corner. Again, really important that I'm holding the poker face, like, okay, you want the bottom right corner, and not be able to go, no.
That's what I love too about all the shows that you've hosted at Game Show Network. Is I love you as a host, and I love that you kind of hold yourself back, but inside you're like, come on, don't do that, or this is the right answer. Yeah, I love that.
I mean, I feel like for tic-tac-toe, obviously, on the chase, it's a very, a little bit more dramatic and a little bit more intense, when you get in and you're facing the beast and all of that. So there is a little bit more, calm that needs to come through. But when you're playing tic-tac-toe, it is like, let's have a little fun with it.
Yeah. 100%. And then, final question here. Is there just like trivia knowledge that is now living in your head rent free that like you've been able to learn?
It's swimming and it comes out at the most random times, but also because there's thousands and thousands and thousands of questions. Somebody will be like, oh, remember this question on the chase from 2020? And I'm like, no. Sometimes it just gets all jumbled in there. I'm like, she's like, no, you did this on the show. I'm like, I did? I literally feel like I've never heard of that before.
The question is somewhere in my brain. The answer is somewhere else. Sometimes they're married, sometimes not. But yeah.
Kind of hit or miss. I always like to say, like, I never knew Mother Teresa's first name was Agnes. That one stuck. Why? I don't know. So
Brooke,
now you
thank you
know.
so much for your time today. Tic Tac Dough, now on Game Show Network. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you. Good to see you.
You too.